Back in 2018, I made a retrospective video talking about the Streets of Rage series, with me talking about the trilogy in its entirety, as well as talking about the wonderful fan-made remake. At the end of the retrospective video, I also made mention of Streets of Rage 4 being in development. Fast forward to 2020, and we now have it on Steam, Switch, Xbox One, and right behind me, the PlayStation 4. Needless to say, it feels like the 90s all over again, and longtime fans of the series have been waiting for the next installment of the series. This is definitely going to be one good game to talk about that is going to be really fun. So right now in the Chronicles, here's my review of Streets of Rage 4. Yeah, to avoid copyright problems, I had to use some music from Streets of Rage 2 as the intro to this video. Which, believe it or not, all the soundtrack from Streets of Rage 2 is actually in this game, provided if you select the option to do so.
Despite how nerfed this year was, it was also a good thing that I attended PAX South this past January, when one of the studios that was working on Streets of Rage 4 was present at the event, with a playable demo and 4 characters available to try out from the start. Although I enjoyed the game, there are some changes that got me questioning why that's the case at first, but once I played it enough times, I can see why the developers chose to have some mechanics slightly nerfed in comparison to past games. 10 years following Streets of Rage 3, the criminal Mr. X has passed on, yet his criminal empire is far from being out entirely, as it is now being run by his children, the Y Twins, and crime is being rampant again in the city, prompting Axel Stone, Blaze Fielding, and the returning Adam Hunter, who, excluding the fan-made remake, hasn't been playable since the first game, to take up arms and go after the Y Syndicate. Joining them are 2 newcomers, the first being Cherry Hunter, Adam's daughter who loves rock music and fights with a guitar, and Floyd Araya, a mason worker who lost his arms in a freak accident, implied to be the Syndicate's doing, and was given cybernetic arms by his teacher, Gilbert Zahn, from Streets of Rage 3. It's strange not to see Skate in the initial roster somehow, although his Streets of Rage 2 and 3 versions are playable, but we'll get to it later. Holy freaking cow, this game looks so beautiful. Just like in the trailers, the developers are going for a comic-style art direction. The attention to detail in these stages are very remarkable, especially with all the graffiti and backgrounds desecrated by the game's gangsters, bringing the game's atmosphere of the city being in chaos. The designs of the characters, both allies and enemies alike, are not only beautifully drawn, but also very well animated, especially whenever they perform moves or just simply walk. The only other 2D game that comes close to having 2D sprites with fluid animation would be the Street Fighter III trilogy. The game's use of color is visually stunning, not only to convey the chaotic atmosphere, but for some of the special effects in the game like fire, electricity, rain, or Blaze's ki blast, they really come out wonderfully. Not to mention, just like in Streets of Rage 3, you'll get some cutscenes, albeit still images, and they are very drawn nicely as it is going for a comic book style format. When it comes to Streets of Rage, you can't forget about the music, as it is also another major staple of the series. 8 people did the music for the game, with most of them being done by French composer Olivier Derivière, sorry if I mispronounced the name, who also did compositions for other games such as Alone in the Dark 2008 and Assassin's Creed 4. As great as Derivière is, the biggest draw would be the announcement of the legendary Yuzo Koshiro assisting in making some of the game's music alongside him. Especially the Stage 1 music, entitled They're Back. You can tell from the style and beats of that song, it definitely has Yuzo Koshiro written all over it. A remake of the first stage music in Streets of Rage 2, if you will. And then there's the gameplay. Rather than building upon the engine of Streets of Rage 3, the developers are more influenced by Streets of Rage 2's presentation that they decided to use SOR2's engine, but have it slightly tweaked to have some different innovations. This kind of mentality is similar to that of Capcom when they are influenced by Mega Man 2's presentation for the creation of Mega Man 9 that they decided not to include the abilities to slide or charge shot. The difference is that I do accept Streets of Rage 4's direction for their game, as Capcom's direction of limiting features in Mega Man 9 kinda rubbed me the wrong way. The gameplay engine is based upon Streets of Rage 2 in that you still have your basic combo attacks, grab opponents, throw your enemies, vaulting over enemies for certain characters, and your HP draining specials, with the latter having a new addition. Under normal circumstances, you lose HP upon execution regardless if the attack connects or doesn't, but as you see here, your HP bar has a meter that is colored green. When you see it, you can gain back some HP lost by connecting normal attacks or throws. But watch out, because if an enemy hits you even once, that green bar is gone and you'll have to find some food to save yourself, advising you not to go all gung-ho with your special attacks. Other than that, the damage output of these specials are all buffed up in comparison to Streets of Rage 2. I mean, you can execute specials in the air, and the impact of normal attacks, special attacks, and throws are so powerful, it brings that satisfaction of seeing enemy HP go down hard. Speaking of impact, just like in 3D fighters like Tekken, you can also juggle opponents in the air as well, and thankfully the damage output of air attacks is good in this game, whereas other games regardless of genre that also has air attacks don't really do that much damage unless you follow up with a strong attack. Weapon usage in the game follows more on Streets of Rage 2 rules, but their durability follows Streets of Rage 3, in that with enough connected attacks, be it enemies or obstacles, the weapon can break. With a separate button now to pick up weapons or food, some enemies will try to throw weapons at you, and when they do, you can use the pickup button to catch the weapon before it hits you. Every once in a while, you'll also find some stars that you can pick up. Each character has what is called a star technique, which requires 1 star token upon execution. It comes in handy if by any chance you're surrounded or trapped in a corner, and they are damaging moves that don't take away HP. Not counting the inclusion of their aerial specials, Axel and Blaze still function the same as they are in Streets of Rage 2, complete with their signature attacks such as Axel's Grand Upper and Blaze's Key Blasts. Adam's basic combo movements are the same as in the first game, but gave more moves to fit in well with the fourth game's engine, with one of his specials being a double thrust kick. I guess some people from the team took note of Adam's special moves from the fan-made remake and decided to incorporate said moves for him in this game. Cherry Hunter is the Skate of this game and is the only character that can run. Despite having similar stats as Skate, Cherry can be a heavy hitter, while with her running Tiger Knee Strike, which can really rack up the combos, and like Skate, she can also cling into an enemy's head and unleash punches before executing a leg throw. A great addition to the cast, and with her guitar, she can go El Kabong on anybody. Florida Raya is another welcome addition to the series. His stature and his backstory makes him a combination of both Max Thunder from 2 and Zan from 3. His normal combos are damaging enough, but his throws are even devastating. He can throw one enemy to another, he can slam an opponent in the air, and he has a unique throw in which by grabbing 2 enemies at a time, he'll automatically bash both their heads. Oh, and his star move is a proton cannon. I guess someone in the team is a fan of Marvel vs. Capcom. Many of the basic enemies from past games have returned, and unlike past games, even these enemies can give you more of a challenge now, as they have what it takes to rush in and stop your combo attempts, especially those kickboxers who can still block attacks, including weapons. Of course, there are some new enemies in the game as well, ranging from crazy chemists, to headbutt-loving bikers that hit hard, to crooked cops, especially with those annoying shields to break, or these guys that fight with their hands in their pockets. Looks like somebody must be a fan of freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. The bosses and mid-bosses in the game are actually challenging but still fun to fight. They can range from cyborgs that can't produce pipes in a match, to karate masters that can counter your moves, or these snake sisters that can either burn you or shock you, and what makes these bosses challenging is that they have, in fighting game terms, super armor properties, meaning they don't flinch easily until after a few hits, or if you can manage to grab and throw them. But even some bosses can recover from throws, even the returning Shiva. Ever since his popularity in Streets of Rage 2, the team is thinking that it won't be Streets of Rage without him. Each time you complete a stage, you'll also collect lifetime points, and the more lifetime points acquired, you'll also have access to the original trilogy's cast of characters, each of them functioning as to how they were made in their respective games. So for example, you can play as Streets of Rage 1 Adam, complete with a police car as his star move, Streets of Rage 2 Max Thunder, and you gotta love his overpowered shoulder tackle, or play as either Streets of Rage 2 Skate, who functions the same, or SOR 3 Shiva, who can really rack up the combos like crazy and make use of his Final Crash somersault. What I'm not showing is how multiplayer works, as I don't have anybody to play with at this time. For the first time ever, Streets of Rage 4 will let you have up to 4 players at a time, though sadly offline only, as you can only have up to 2 players online. But even then, 4-player Streets of Rage is unheard of, and if you have 3 other controllers laying around, invite some friends over, score some combos, and save the city together. For $25, I will say that the game is worth the investment.
There's no denying that everything that the development team did on Streets of Rage 4 is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the gameplay is still the best, all the innovations they added in are very welcoming, the challenge is just right. You also have the excellent soundtrack from both Derive and Koshiro, and all the nice secrets that you can unlock in the game. Yup, this game definitely warrants a perfect 10. I'm dead serious about that. Now, Streets of Rage 2 is still considered a masterpiece, and still is to this day, but everything that Streets of Rage 4 did definitely outshines 2 in just about everything. Similarly to how Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 set the bar higher than that of Spider-Man 2, the movie game. Streets of Rage 4 is definitely a love letter to longtime fans of the series, and for current generation players, I promise you, you'll definitely get a kick out of this game. It's definitely worth trying out. So, what other games will I venture forward to next? Well, some of your viewers may be disappointed to hear that I'm going to take another hiatus for reviewing games. Now you might be thinking, dude, you already took a hiatus and you just came back. Well, that is true, but at the time I uploaded this video, there is one game on the PlayStation 4 that many consider to be the swan song for the PlayStation 4. And you guys probably know what I'm talking about. Sure, there will still be more games on the PlayStation 4 coming after that game, but to everyone, this upcoming game is going to be the last big one on the console. And I wanted to take the time to actually play the game, record the game, and also review it. So yeah, I'm not going to mention the title, but I'm pretty sure your viewers know what I have in mind for my next video. Until then, this has been Musashi X, and I bid you all farewell. Take care, stay tuned, and take care of your health, everybody.